Hi, everyone. Welcome to Newfound Happy Hour, episode 1. My name is Sarah, and I am both nervous and excited to be doing this. I started a blog about a year and a half ago just for random pieces that I wrote. And I will leave them up because I think they're good to look back on, but I realized that writing is not really my thing. I think, like a lot of people in their 20s, I'm just trying to figure out the things that I want to do long term and stop doing the things that I don't want to do long term. And a friend suggested that I start a podcast, and it might have been as a joke, but the more I thought about it, the more ideas I had. And I do have a lot of really supportive friends who kind of pushed me to do it, so here we are. So this is Newfound Happy Hour. And if you don't already know me, I am 27 years old. I've lived in Newfoundland my whole life. I leave every chance I get. But I've been involved in a couple different parts of the community with school, extracurricular activities. I went to MUN and got my business degree. And I've had a lot of jobs along the way. So something I've learned from having a lot of jobs and meeting a lot of people is that you really don't know someone's whole story just by what you hear about them, what they post on social media. And that's kind of how I came up with this idea. I also heard a quote recently that the full saying of being a jack of all trades is actually a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And I feel like that kind of spoke to me. I've done a lot of things in the community, I've tried a lot of things, but I've never made one thing my whole life. For example, I go to yoga every week, but I don't live and breathe and teach and own a yoga studio. So I think some people can relate to that. And I know I definitely can when it comes to my friends and family. There's a lot of people who are experts on one thing or another, and that's the people that I want to talk to. And also kind of give my opinion then as someone who does not know it all about any given topic. I also want to talk to some local business owners and get to know them and how they got to be where they are today. So if you know anybody, send them my way. As far as I know, there's not many, if any, Newfoundland podcasts that have a millennial woman's point of view. So that's going to be how we start each episode, I think, with just talking about something that's going on, an opinion that I have, or something that I've gone through or a friend's gone through recently that we can talk about. If you don't already know, it's a bit of an interesting time to live in Newfoundland right now. We're post-pandemic. Things are kind of getting back to normal, like actual normal. And for people my age, there's always people coming and going. So I've had a lot of friends move away. I've had some of them come back, and the other ones I just visit all the time. And I'm lucky to stay in touch with most of them because I know that doesn't happen for everybody. But of course, they come back every so often to visit too, so it's always exciting when that happens. And there's some of the people I'll be talking to as well about their experiences moving away or living away, coming back, and how it's been for them through all of that. And so for my first episode, I was thinking of who I wanted to have for my first guest, because I do have a lot of ideas for the future, but I wanted to make this first one just more of a simple conversation and kind of getting to know me and what this podcast will be. And I was doing what I always do before making any decision, which is consulting with this one person. Pretty much every decision I make is ran by her, and every mistake I make is discussed over a long phone call. Non-judgmental though. It's always supportive even when I'm being stupid. But I think that's why we've been friends so long and why we've been able to maintain such a good long distance friendship that doesn't actually feel like we're separated by provinces. And so for the second part of the episode, it's going to be just me asking her some questions to get to know me a little bit better. And like I said, I'm still kind of figuring out all this podcast stuff. It's a bit of a process if you didn't know, but we're on our way. And our conversation today is kind of just an example of the phone calls that we have every day. We actually do speak on the phone. Even though we play a lot of phone tag, we do speak almost every day. but I didn't really give her a proper introduction when we started this interview part. So I will introduce her now. She is so much more than my best friend. She is who I rant to all the time. She listens to me complain about the same things over and over again and is always so positive and so caring. And like I said, when we answer some of these questions later on, that she is just so kind and really just wants to care for everybody. And yeah, she is the Christina to my Meredith. And we also have the same name, which gets confusing for some people sometimes when they meet us. But we were born in the 90s, and Sarah was a common name given throughout those years. So my name is Sarah, and this is my best friend, Sarah. Well, I don't even know how to introduce you because you're like...
I'm Sarah, and this is Sarah.
Well, you're Sarah, I'm Sarah. You're the closest thing to a marriage that I've ever had.
Aww.
But yeah, maybe we'll start with the questions, and then that will, like, introduce you and me.
Okay.
Because my first question is, how did we meet?
My goodness.
And there's a couple different answers to this question.
Well, how we met, one of my earliest memories is you coming to my house when I lived on North Pond Road, and we walked to PJ's. And I remember our dads talking, like we were in elementary school. And that's the earliest memory I have.
True. Well, that's, okay, yeah, that's, I guess, how we met. But how did we become best friends is probably the question I should be asking.
Well, how I remember it is when you broke your collarbone and it was someone's birthday bus crawl and you still went downtown and you fell down the stairs at Confusion and I caught you. That's my favorite story. Then there's also when we went to Muggy Monday for Tips Eve together.
Okay, true. That solidified it. I think the bus crawl was like October.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I couldn't move my shoulders.
Yeah, and I asked you why you still went, and you said, well, I already paid for it.
And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about me, I don't know what does.
Yeah, and you must have broke it on the Tuesday, and that was a Friday.
Yeah, it was September 30th. I just remember that date because I posted it when I broke my collarbone. So yeah, it was September 30th, and the bus crawl was probably mid-October because it wasn't for Halloween or anything.
Yeah, because I was out for my birthday.
Right. Yeah. And, well, I mean, the Confusion stairs are dangerous when you're sober, let alone on a bus crawl. So I don't know if I want to know the answer to this one. What smell reminds you of me?
Candles. And just because your dad hates them so much. I don't know.
That's true.
That's a terrible answer. I don't know. Candles. Like what?
No. I thought you were going to say like tequila or something. So that makes me
That's the first thing that comes to my brain. Vanilla and sunscreen and candles.
Oh, I love that. You sent me a candle that was sunscreen scented.
Oh, well then, yeah. That makes sense why.
Yeah, Dad does not like candles, and I just bought one that smells like the lilac tree at my nan's house.
Aww,
so that's going to be my spring scent. Yeah. What TV show best friends are we most like? I had time to think about this, so I actually know what I would say.
Like, I feel like Monica and Rachel, because we can, like, still fight, but it's not really fighting.
And we don't have applause.
We don't have applause, this is true.
Yeah, that episode where they're sitting on the couch in their wedding dresses and they're like, we're just going to be single forever. And they're like, do we have a plan? And Phoebe says, we don't even have applause.
Was that the answer that you had too? Was Phoebe or Monica and Rachel?
No, but I can totally see that, especially if we lived together. Mm-hmm. But we'd be like 10 times messier.
Yeah, this is true.
Like, it would be such a mess. I was thinking like Firefly Lane. Did you watch that show?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't stop being friends.
No, that's true.
But yes, I do.
Well, yeah, like I said, this is like, yeah, we're like in a marriage, a long distance relationship.
Yes. Long distance marriage.
Yeah.
Like my forever plus one at my mom's house. Just permanent place card for Sozon.
Yeah, exactly. What am I most afraid of?
Lockdowns, because then you can't socialize. Just like the
And then I go
worst
insane.
FOMO I've ever seen from anyone is from you.
Yeah. But there wasn't even anything, like, it's not like there was things going on.
Just socializing.
I
Just
had FOMO from the things that we couldn't do. Yeah, that was rough. That came up on my Instagram stories yesterday. Was like when I stayed with Leslie when lockdown first happened. And it was like, time has no meaning and we're running out of tequila. Which, that was spring 2020 for everyone, I think.
yes, 100%. I remember trying to
Yeah,
find
that's a good
margarita
fear.
mix and it was sold out everywhere, even at Dollarama.
Oh my God. See, everyone had the same mindset. And the last question is, what's one thing you think people should know about me?
That you truly want to make a difference in the world and that they shouldn't just judge you from things that you post on social media having fun with your friends, because you do both. You have fun and you want to make a difference.
Oh, I love you so much.
Love you so much.
Yeah, I think the same about you. I feel like I think people don't realize that you're like a sensitive soul, or maybe they do.
Like there's very few people in this world who haven't seen me cry at this point, but I guess you're right. Like you just assume people know who you are, but if you think about how you assume things about people based on what they post on social media, then you don't really know. And we've talked about it before, how people try to fit people they don't know into boxes or certain categories when obviously everyone you know is more complex than just one thing. Like,
Right. Yeah, no, we do talk about that all the time because that's one of my pet peeves is when people think that like you can't like camping and going to the club. But you can like both things. They can both be mutually exclusive.
We just also don't like camping. So
I like camping once or twice a year. I mean, it depends on what kind of camping we're talking about. Like, do I like going on an 8-hour hike and sleeping in the dirt? No.
okay, so if it's May 24th weekend or boots and hearts.
Exactly.
But that's okay. It's okay to like, more than one thing.
Oh, it's okay to not like everything. But I don't know. People do that a lot where they're like, I would much rather stay in on a Friday night than go to a bar. And it's like, that's great. Some Friday nights I feel one way and some Friday nights I feel the other. But just because someone likes one more than the other or likes both, it just doesn't mean that you can't like both.
Yes, I think the issue is when people try to make it seem like they're better than someone else because they like a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, like, I don't know, I like reading different kinds of books, but people who are like, oh, I could never read fiction. Okay. That's fine.
Good for you.
But like people who try to make it seem like, oh, every time you read something, you need to learn something or things like that.
Yeah.
And that they're superior because of that.
Yeah, or just because you post a book every other day doesn't mean that all you do is read.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Which is like one of the reasons that I'm doing this is because a lot of people have a preconceived idea of who someone is. And you really don't know. You don't know how someone got to where they are or came to do what they're doing. And like we've had so many different like life transitions and we're only 26, 27. So like especially as you get older too, more shit happens to people.
For sure.
So you just can't judge. Okay, so I have a question for you that kind of ties into all of that, which is how has your experience been not living in Newfoundland for the past couple of years and leaving your best friend?
The drama.
No, not just leaving me. Well, I asked people on my story the other day what's a pro and con of, or like what's a pro and con that you think about Newfoundland living here, I guess. But maybe you have a different point of view living away of like things that you missed that you didn't think that you appreciated, like your best friend.
Oh yeah,
Like
so
your best friend.
well, I knew I would miss you. Well, when I moved, I was really excited to not know everyone, like to be able to go to the grocery store and not see someone you went to school with or someone's parent or just someone random that you like met in a George Street bathroom who was also named Sarah. But
Yep.
like I was looking forward to that part of it. And I did enjoy that part when I first moved to Calgary. But of course, it's so easy to feel lonely. So I did really start to miss having my people and my family around. But I knew I would miss them. I just didn't realize how much I would
Mm-hmm.
miss them until I was actually gone. And like missing family events and like when my nieces were born, and that was definitely hard, and those different milestones. Um, really missed the ocean. My friend in Calgary, who is also from Newfoundland, she said you can tell who the Newfoundlanders are in Calgary because they're the ones always taking pictures of the water, like the one river in Calgary.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Missed the Celtic Hearth.
Of course.
Like when you came up for Stampede and we could not find a 24-hour restaurant and ended up at Denny's and had the worst nachos ever. Like, sad.
Nothing beats Celtic Hearth.
And then, although, like, I wanted to, like, you know, not go to the grocery store and see someone familiar, when I would go home and that would happen, like, that was the best. I loved that part of it. Yeah, but I am happy that I moved away because in that time, like, I was forced to grow further than I would have in Newfoundland, even though it was through a lot of different hard times. But I am glad that I left. But I do miss home so much.
Yeah. No, pretty much everything you said. So I got a lot of answers from people. And the pros are all the same. So the scenery and like the ocean is what most people said, or like East Coast Trail. And then the people and being close to friends and family was the second one. Those were the only pros. No one said anything else, which I agree with. Like, I like, not to talk about Celtic Hearth again, but when you come home and we go to Celtic Hearth, we have the same server and he knows us and he's known us for years. I like that. Not everyone, I mean, I guess there's like times where you're like, I just don't want to see anybody who I know, but I like that about Newfoundland. You can go somewhere and it's someone that you used to work with or someone who you know through mutual friends.
Yeah, that feeling of safety.
Yeah.
When you know somebody and, I don't know, feeling of security. It's just different home. And it's like cool to meet new people and everything, but it's hard to meet new people when you don't have any mutual connection.
Right.
Like going and starting at Dynasty, like the cheer gym in Calgary, after living in Calgary for a year, I knew no one who worked there, and it was a great experience. Obviously, I loved coaching there, but getting there, like that first little bit was really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like that just reminds me of how so many people moved home during the pandemic, of like people that I had been friends with for a month or whatnot, and then they kind of gained all the friends that the few friends they had back home had. So it's like when they came back, they were automatically invited to all these things and they met people that way. So yeah, that's definitely a pro.
Yes, I feel like people hang out in bigger groups as well. Like, I don't know if that might have just been my experience when I moved to Calgary, but I didn't really meet that many other people outside of my friend group.
Right.
But that could have just been a me thing because I just coached a lot.
Yeah, true. The cons, so there's a couple different cons, but they're basically all the same vibe. So the weather, obviously, everybody said the weather. We'd all be, well, I mean, everyone just has a boost of serotonin when the sun comes out here. So does everyone in Newfoundland have seasonal depression? Maybe. I think so. But after that, it was hard to travel, or like feeling isolated from the rest of the world, which obviously makes sense.
Yes. Just so much more expensive. And like moving to Calgary and being able to drive to BC, it was like a weird thing that you could just drive to another province. Like that's a luxury that a lot of places in Canada have.
Right. Yeah, when I was in Calgary, we drove to Kelowna back in the fall, and then like some of our friends who live outside of Toronto can just drive in and visit each other every other weekend because it's just a 2-hour drive. It's just much easier and much cheaper to get out of here, is what a lot of people said. The cost of living and less opportunities is what other people said, which, I mean, definitely makes sense, especially depending on the field of work that you're in. And then the last one, which I feel like we're going to talk about this a lot on the podcast, but multiple people said, well, some people just said men, but I would say like the like dating scene here, and that like it's small and that there's a lot of gossip. So like a lot of people tied into that, which I think we can all understand whether you live here or you don't.
For sure. No, and I definitely agree with that. My friends that are men outside of Newfoundland are always very surprised at the stories that they hear about dating guys from Newfoundland. And it's not all men from Newfoundland, obviously, but I've noticed that men are more afraid of being sensitive in Newfoundland compared to living in Calgary and Ontario. Like there's this fear that they have to be more manly and they can't show their feelings and they can't talk about their emotions. And like in that book that you read, was it Newfoundland that had the highest rate of like infidelity?
There was there was something released. I'll find that for a future episode, but it was the most infidelity, I guess, out of all the Canadian provinces, and Newfoundland was number one.
Yeah, and like of course it's everywhere, but I don't know. It's also weird because it's such a small province. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no shame in blatantly messaging people or downloading a dating app when all your girlfriend's friends are on there. Me specifically, probably know your girlfriend. I don't get it. So anyways, I think there's a lot of reasons why, and I think we know it's not everybody. We know it's not all men. We know it's not all women. But I was thinking earlier, because something like this happened to someone that I know recently, that like, yeah, I know some of my female friends who have cheated on people or whatnot, but most of my girlfriends have been cheated on. You know? And I would love to have different male perspectives on this too. So hopefully that's some ideas for some future episodes.
For sure. Yeah. It's yeah, and even like outside of people cheating, I don't know, it's like guys in Newfoundland, like even just start dating, have a harder time with saying that they care about someone.
No, that's true. And I mean, we're just like throwing out so many podcast ideas right now. I did read that book about dating in different universities across the United States, and how when there's less women than men, or less men than women, vice versa, people act differently. And I think, I'm going to have to look it up more, but I think that's a big part of what happens here, is that from my experiences, there's a lot of like independent adult women who are doing it for themselves. There's not that many men. And so I think for a lot of men here, they have all these options. That's why you see them go from person to person to person, never really date anyone.
This is true.
That's just my opinion at the moment, but we'll look into it some more.
I would also like to know what the numbers are. Are there more women actually in Newfoundland than men?
I was looking that up when I was reading that book, because that was just about the United States, but I think the most recent documents I could find for Canada was from like 2015. But that was a while ago when I was reading the book, so I'll have to look into it again. Well, I guess that kind of ties into like what we were talking about earlier, of how people just judge people based on their social media, or especially here, even who they're dating, or if they're not dating, or if they're permanently single, or they go from person to person. It's just another example of like, you really don't know what someone else's whole life is.
No, that's very
aside
true.
From bits and pieces.
And I find as well that maybe it is, again, because Newfoundland is so small, that people are really held to who they were when they were younger. And it's harder for people to grow, because anything that somebody did when they were younger, everyone knows. Everyone knows what everyone is doing in Newfoundland, basically. So like it's hard for people to change. And maybe that is an
That's
issue
so
too
true.
with like the dating thing, that people feel like they can't become better partners or whatever because they're just being held to whoever they were when they were in high school or whatever.
That's so true. And that's so unfair. And most people, like I guess people our age who are in their mid 20s have been out of high school almost 10 years. But how often do you hear someone say like a story about somebody when they were in high school that a lot of people judge them for? So, I mean, I guess the hope is that most people grow up to be about our age and don't care about that, or like will have some grace and not, I guess, not still judge someone based on something that happened so long ago.
For
But
sure.
a lot of people still definitely do.
Yeah, which is crazy because I feel like everyone is embarrassed about who they were when they were younger. And I read something once before that said, like, it's good if you're embarrassed about who you were when you were younger because that means that you've grown and become a better person. So I love that.
Yeah, that is so true. And that's why I think it's good to do this and talk to different people and get to know more of who they are and not just what you used to know about them or what they post.
For sure.
And I have a lot of cool ideas about like different local business owners, or even just like to have some more of my friends on who can talk about like their job or whatever they're involved in. And everyone can just learn more.
I'm very excited to hear all of them.
Thank you. And thanks for always supporting me.
And I'm excited for a perspective from someone from Newfoundland and not someone who like lives in LA.
Exactly.
It's not as relatable, obviously.
No, but I think it is interesting, especially for maybe like other provinces, other smaller provinces in Canada too, can probably relate to some things, or just like small towns.
For sure.
But like any aspect of life, like doing business here is so different. Relationships are so different. Moving away is so different. So like traveling, like everything is so different coming from Newfoundland.
Totally. And like things like hobbies and activities, there's very limited things that you can do. And it makes such a big impact on who people become. And of course, I think that that's everywhere where people hold who other people were when they were in high school. I think there's just more time to think about it when you're in Newfoundland and think about other people and what they're doing because there's less opportunities to do things.
Well, yeah, because the downside of knowing everyone everywhere you go is that people keep up on what you're doing. Which is only really a bad thing if you're being judgmental and won't let it go. And who has the time to not let it go?
Right. Just hard to change if people are holding you to who you were 10 years ago. Like, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing to think. There's people in Newfoundland who, when they think of me, they think of the last time that they saw me, which may have been 10 years ago, and how different I am now. And that's just such a weird thing to think.
Well, hopefully from here on out, we can have some more open-mindedness. Is that a word?
Be more open-minded is a word too.
Be more open-minded. This is going to be a learning process. I will state from the beginning that I do not know what I'm doing.
Yes, you do. You're going to do great.
Thank you. We'll learn as we go.
Yes, we will. As always, you have a plan. It's not just a plow.
True. We do have a plan here. Okay, so I hope that was kind of enjoyable to listen to. I hope it kind of sets a base for a lot of different things that we can talk about on this podcast. And I'm really excited to get to talk to some of my other friends and people that I don't know. Like I said, kind of get a more in-depth view of who people are and their different stories. The way that we're going to end every episode is going to be with a piece of advice. So it's either going to be something that I heard recently or advice that one of my guests wants to give, or maybe a piece of advice that someone gave them that they always pass on. And so the first blog post, which was arguably the best one, was things to tell your 25-year-old self. And the reason I did that was because it was actually coming up on Sarah's 25th birthday. I was about to be 26, and that's what I wrote that blog post for. So for my whole year of being 25, I asked strangers, family members, literally people at work, at a bar, wherever, and I asked them what you would tell your 25-year-old self. And this is all women from all ages. And I put that together, and that was my first blog post. So I'm going to read a little bit of the end of that. I'll take the main piece of advice that I got, because what most people said was all kind of similar in this way, which is basically don't be a people pleaser and do what makes you happy. And what I wrote was, when explaining why they gave this advice, I came to this conclusion: giving your whole self to a partner, child, or job is not going to fulfill you. But when you as an individual are whole on your own, those parts of your life will be so much better. And so I think that's my piece of advice for today is decide what you want to do, be a good person doing it, and don't pay too much attention to what other people say about it or what they might think. Because at the end of the day, it's you that has to live with your choices and your life and not anybody else. And I just want to put in a side note there that I do not have all the answers, and you'll probably learn that as we go. But I think that spreading advice spreads positivity. So that's why we're doing that. So that is it for episode 1. Thank you for listening. This was just the beginning. This was just kind of getting into it. I'm really excited for all the different people that I can talk to. Actually, I'm really excited for next episode, because episode 2 is going to be talking about something that I've been involved with for a very long time. We're going to be talking to Emily and Cassi from Cheersport Sharks, Newfoundland. So I've been involved in cheerleading since I was about 12, and I took a 2-year hiatus, mostly because of COVID, and recently got involved again. And this is the gym that I'm doing it with. So we're going to talk to them a little bit about how this got started and their plans for this year. So that will all be in 2 weeks' time. I'm hoping to have episodes out every 2 weeks, every Thursday or Friday. And yeah, super excited for that one. If you have any suggestions of local businesses or just friends who have really cool stories, send them my way. You can find me at Newfound Happy Hour on Instagram. And you can listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for being patient with me while I figure out how to do this. I promise it will get better from here on out. Have a good weekend.